Good afternoon. These are the main headlines. Mandela remembered as lawyer, prisoner, president, activist and father. Students in Greece gather to commemorate death anniversary of iconic student. National Security Agency NSA defends global cell phone tracking as legal. Hello and welcome to Aletejah TV News live from London. I'm Ali Mayer. Our top story today, we continue to mourn the lawyer, the prisoner, the president, the activist and the father, the late Nelson Mandela. As news of the tragic event unfolds, millions of people around the world pay their respects locally in town centres and embassies, conducting night vigils by lighting candles mourning this man who was a sign of hope for many. We have this special report prepared by Yusra Mehdi on the life of Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela died, but his legacies will live for generations to come. The great son of Africa leaves behind a legacy that the whole world can connect to when seeking human rights and justice. For South Africans, he was a hero, and for the world, he's a heroic example. Mandela the lawyer marked the opening of the first black law firm in South Africa in 1952. His achievements inside the confines of the courtroom made him a standard of lawyerly excellence. And his rising reputation came as a contrast to the narrow limits of the white male elite law firm lawyers. He is perhaps the most respected person of our times. Yet few have recognized that the values that Mandela sacrificed his own freedom for, democracy, human rights and the rule of law, are the highest values of the legal profession. Principles that are shared by many lawyers around the world. Most definitely, Mandela's contribution to law played a significant role in making him the greatest man the world has known. Mandela the prisoner. In 1962, Mandela was charged with 4 counts of sabotage and conspiring to overthrow the government. He escaped the death sentence for treason, but was sentenced to life imprisonment. And that's when the harsh prison sentence began, and the conditions as described by Mandela's biographer. Mandela was imprisoned in a damp concrete cell 8 feet by 7 feet. With a straw mat to sleep on. Mandela and the other political prisoners spent their days breaking rocks. Initially forbidden from wearing sunglasses, the glare from the lime permanently damaged Mandela's eyesight. Then came the historic moment on February 11, 1990, when prisoner 4664 was released from 27-year hard labor sentence, an experience that would have broken the will of the strongest individual. Mandela the president. From prisoner to president on April 27, 1994, South Africa held its first multiracial elections. The ANC won 62% of the vote, and Nelson Mandela, as party leader, became the country's first black leader. During Mandela's presidency, a great number of social reforms were enacted to end the country's brutal apartheid legacy. He introduced free healthcare for all children under the age of 6, increased spending on welfare and social grants, compulsory education for African children between ages 6 and 14, and free meals for up to 5 million school children. Mandela also initiated the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to investigate past human rights abuses. Mandela, the human rights icon. Despite his retirement and advanced age, Mandela continued his humanitarian work. Behind the scenes, His advocacy work, particularly around issues such as political oppression and HIV, marked the success of many campaigns. And finally, Mandela the father. Mandela received over 250 international awards throughout his lifetime, including the US Presidential Medal of Freedom, the Soviet Order of Lenin, and the Order of St. John's, which was a personal gift from Queen Elizabeth II. But perhaps the greatest recognition bestowed on Nelson Mandela came from the people of South Africa, where he's recognized as the father of the nation.
Yes, inspirational man. Still on the subject of the late Mandela, hundreds of mourners gathered outside South Africa House in central London to pay their respects and sign a book of condolences inside. They also gathered last night in Trafalgar Square singing sorrowful hymns well into the night. Miriam Grillo has the following report.
Millions of people in South Africa and around the world are mourning the death of Nelson Mandela, who died late on Thursday at the age of 95. Hundreds of people queued outside of South Africa House in central London to sign the book of condolences inside. Some waited quietly, others not. Official mourning is expected to last 10 days, and a state funeral will be held on Sunday, 15th of December. Anat Singh, the filmmaker and friend of Mandela, was also waiting in line.
Knowing how humble and, with that sort of dry sense of humor, he'd say, what is all this about? Why are they doing all of this? But I think he's such a remarkable person and such a role model and inspiration to people of the world that we've only just begun to see this outpouring of love. But it's going to be enormous and global, and it'll be unprecedented.
World leaders have paid tribute, including opposition leader Ed Miliband. President Obama said Mr. Mandela embodied the promise of change for better. The Mayor of London shared his words of condolence.
I simply said that on behalf of Londoners I was paying tribute to a man who brought his country together and who brought the world together by the simple power of love and forgiveness.
And the mourning continued into the night. Mourners gathered at Trafalgar Square to sign pledges and sing by the fountain.
It is well, it is well with my soul.
We are here, I think, today not to mourn his death, but to celebrate his life and those great achievements.
There is no doubt Nelson Mandela's memory will live on.
To discuss the late Nelson Mandela with us further, I have live in the studio African human rights activist Bekele Woyecha. Bekele, thank you for joining the bulletin. Firstly, it is said that Mr. Mandela was one of the few that achieved their dreams. What were these dreams of Mr. Mandela?
Thanks for having me. Actually, Mr. Mandela was an icon not only in South Africa but in the whole of Africa. He was so much loved for doing justice for his people, but for doing justice for the whole of Africa. He was a man of passion, dedication, tolerance and resistance, and it is going to be his legacy throughout the world. And Mandela is so much loved, especially in the country where I come from, Ethiopia. So that's his legacy.
Right. Following the passing away of Mr. Mandela, to what extent has South Africa achieved this goal? And for the future, will these dreams become more or less true in South Africa?
I trust that his dreams will be there, will be true, and then South Africans and the South African government will work towards achieving what he really worked for, what he really fought for. It's down to them. I remember him saying it's now to the next generation. So it's about the next generation to take forward what Mandela worked for, fought for, and I trust it's going to be there.
Okay, and Mandela's revolution was successful because he set a peaceful example. What can you tell those who want to make change through violent uprising?
I do not accept violence at any cost. We should always be there to talk and negotiate. Mandela was a man of tolerance. Mandela, even though he suffered, even though he was imprisoned for 27 years, he never resorted to revenge. Rather, he resorted to negotiations, peaceful discussions. That's what's important. That's what should happen in the 21st century. Violence will not work.
Okay, Mr. Woyecha, please stay with us while we go live to our UK correspondent Naqa Al-Khazraji, who is currently in central London at the moment, asking the British public what Nelson Mandela means to them. Naqa, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ali. I'm here in Trafalgar Square in front of the South African Embassy. As you can see, many people are gathered here today to commemorate the passing of former President Nelson Mandela. People are also here queuing up to write in the book of condolences. I've come to ask the British public how inspirational Nelson Mandela was to them and if they will be continuing his dream of a peaceful and just world. What does Nelson Mandela mean to you?
He means freedom for everybody and love for all people.
Nelson Mandela means to me that he educated people about what he has gone through with his life since he was young. When he went to prison for 27 years in prison, and that means to me he was fighting for the justice for the black people.
How can we achieve world peace in the same way Mandela achieved peace for Africa?
Yes, I think the leaders of African countries should emulate what Mandela has done.
That is the question, isn't it? I think we need more Mandelas around the world in every country.
Mandela's ending apartheid was a revolution. What message can we give to those who are fighting for revolution, especially in the East?
Yes, I think other countries should emulate Mandela's legacy. They should continue to fight. They should continue to tell the whole world that this is we want to be free. As such, they will, when they see it, they will, the whole world, when they see what they're doing, they will change their mind one day and do what they did to Mandela.
I think if it's possible to fight peacefully, to do it in other ways, not kill each other.
Mandela's revolution was successful because he set a peaceful example. What can you tell those who want to make change through violent uprising?
For those who want to make change, they have to unite and fight against the dictatorship leaders in the world.
I don't think it solves anything and it doesn't work.
Well, Mandela espoused violence in his youth. The ANC would not have had the impact that it had without its armed struggle. But he knew that the armed struggle was a way to make peace, and he started negotiations with his oppressors, with his captors, with the government that had imprisoned him, against the will of his own movements. There were many people in the ANC who thought that he'd sold out, who were fearful of what he'd done. There were other people who actually couldn't believe that he was holding those secret talks when the word got out, because they had such faith in him and his beliefs that they didn't believe he would talk to his oppressors, but he did. So I suppose if there's one moral from that, it's that we still hear people talking about not talking to terrorists, but the truth is that in every situation of conflict, people have to talk to each other, and they do talk to each other, even if they claim not to be speaking. And Mandela is a very powerful example of someone who talked to everyone, but fundamentally he didn't change his mind.
This is what the British public had to say today. Back to you, Ali, in the studio.
Thank you very much, Naqa. We still have live in the studio African human rights activist Bekele Woyecha. Bekele, in terms of the late Mandela's human rights work in South Africa, so despite his retirement and advanced age, Mandela continued his humanitarian work behind the scenes. Who will make sure this continues?
It is down to the South Africans, it's down to the South African government, it's down to the next generation, it's down to Africans, it's down to all the generations who were followers of Mandela to step in and make sure that the legacy continues. It's our responsibility. We should keep on doing what this gentle giant, towering figure of this world had done. It is by doing that we could always say, we respect this person. That's how we could pay back. So it's down to us.
Yes. So do you think his death will create an absence in the humanitarian work, especially in Africa?
Well, he will be greatly missed, but the teaching is that there are lots of others who should step in and take on what Mandela started. The journey has started. There's a long way to go. It's down to us. It's down to Africans. It's down to human rights activists across the globe to continue the good work Mandela has started.
Right. In the last couple of moments that we have, Mandela's ending apartheid was a revolution in itself. What message can we give to those who are also fighting for revolutions in the East?
We should always get organized, united, and fight against injustice. Injustice somewhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So the message is to peacefully resist and work for change. It should be done everywhere, whether it is in the East, West, Africa, wherever it is. We should all get united, organized, and fight for justice.
African human rights activist Bekele Woyecha, thank you very much for your time.